Hello and welcome back to the Panda Awards Show, where we tell the real stories all about IT careers and how people got to where they are today to help you get to where they are in the future. I'm joined with my fellow friend and co-host, Ben. How are you today, Ben?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Absolutely fantastic. I'm excited for this one. We got a special guest today, someone that I believe is a friend of yours, dear, pretty close to you, Aldlen Wilson. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. Pleasure to be on the show.
Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. We're still pretty new to this, so I don't know how to roll into an intro into talking about you. But
Well, let's
why don't
roll
you-
the intro song and
Yeah.
get the slides going.
Play some ads. If you want to buy some ads, reach out.
Yes, this segment is sponsored by the need for sponsors.
We got baskets that were woven under the deepest seas.
So, Alden, why don't you give it just a quick explanation of where you are today and what your job is, and then let's talk about how you got there.
Yeah, so I am the owner and the lead meme automation officer of Alden's Laugh Lab. I do consulting for people who use SIP, the Microsoft partner portal created by Cyberdrain and Co. And from there, kind of do consulting services based off of that. Even kind of outside of that, I just try to help other MSPs, other companies, other tech folks get themselves up to, I guess what I would call the acceptable minimum standard. But I really try to help people boost both their security and the security of their clients if they're a person who's client facing, or the security for their customers if they're customer facing, if they're more of a vendor or more of a enterprise SMB, what have you.
Cool, very cool. I think based on that alone, I'm going to have to reach out to you because as a new entry into the MSP market, we're still learning the ropes here and there. Well, we know what we're doing, but at the same time,
I don't think we ever know what we're doing, but it is a lot of chasing excellence until you can get to there. And I mean, a lot of the security things that I really harp on do end up making your lives and your customers' lives so much easier once you give into the pain of, maybe once you have to buy a YubiKey or something to do your password management, but then all of a sudden now every single system, every service you have is logged to, or is locked down to, your YubiKey and your backup YubiKey. Now you don't have to worry about your passwords anymore. Suddenly life is easier. You can forget them. And then
that's true.
And you have to remember them sometimes. And that's really bad. It's all rainbows and sunshine as long as you're looking in the right direction.
So I'm curious, how did you guys meet? Because this is the first interaction that you and I have together, Alden. But Ben and you have known each other for a little bit longer than that. So
That'd probably be Cyberdrain server potentially.
I mean, Cyberdrain CCF was when we became acquainted with each other. I mean, I know that we'd ran into each other in the Roost Discord, just kind of answering questions for each other. I'd used Roost for a few years at my prior MSP, and now I've got my own account to fiddle with. But I think that we really kind of started talking during the one of the Capture the Flags ran by Cyberdrain, where instead of a traditional Capture the Flag event where you're trying to break into software, all of their questions are more of like actual tickets that they've got or that their friends have got at their MSPs, just the weirdest situations. And so they set up a server or a workstation that is identical to that very odd situation they ran into, and you've got to fix the issue. And I mean, it's seriously one of the greatest things that I've ever done. I wish that all my coworkers at my old MSP would try it sometime, even though maybe you don't like to bring work home or what have you, but really being able to find the solutions to some of these abstract problems, especially when the solution is sitting there right in front of your face, is such a great skill to have. Being able to adapt that to the daily life of being a technician, either an in-house or MSP or what have you, but being able to find these really absurd solutions to problems is so cool. Is so useful to have.
It's a little painful at times. It's a lot of late nights and just banging your head against the wall, but you'll mostly come out for the better for it.
I think that's been, and so I'm not a coder by any means. And I think today, because I understand some code, but I think I spent like 6 hours back and forth with ChatGPT and Gemini, trying to figure out how to do one thing.
It is really nice to be able to bounce ideas off the big three, or even the big four. I see a lot of people who are doing ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, and Claude kind of situationally, or when one of them gets stuck, you copy your question over to the other one. You say, "Hey, your dumb brother GPT gave me this answer. Prove to me that you're smarter than him." And then they're like, "Boy, you're such a very you're such a smart person, such a forward-thinking person. Let's find you an answer for that." What were you trying to code? If you can talk about it.
I saw a great meme. Just I think today or yesterday, it was like when you ask a stupid question and the teacher yells at you, but ChatGPT always says it was a great question, says you're the best person in the world.
If I could marry ChatGPT, it'd be done yesterday.
Where's Cortana when you need her?
So as far as doing coding stuff, that actually interests me. That's one of my big hobbies. I mean, LLMs are a big hobby of mine. If Ben hasn't told you, I've got quite the stack of self-hosted LLMs, which is good and bad. It's fun because you don't have to worry about the retention policies, but it's awful because, boy, there's a lot of cool stuff that all those other platforms have that they just don't talk about that they've added, especially recently. A lot more of it's coming to light with all of the MCP stuff and the tools, and that stuff's been around for years, but it's really starting to pick up now that like Anthropic is like, "Hey, we've standardized MC and we have it in our platform," and then everyone's like, "Oh wow, this is cool." Right, it's an API, but not. And
I'm curious, how easy is it for you to run some of those LLMs at home? Because my struggle has been that I don't have the GPU power to make anything worth my time. It's just too slow.
So in a previous lifetime, I was an MSP that worked in an actual office with cubicles and all that fun stuff. And so I would often grab machines from our graveyard and bring them home once they'd been properly cleaned. So I've got a stack of really awful GPUs, and that gets me going. But I also have my rig that we're talking on right now that's got an RTX 3080, 4070. And then in my bedroom, I've got one with an RTX 3060 and a 3080 and a RTX A4500. And then in my server closet, I've got two with RTX A6000s. So I've got about 300 gigs of VRAM floating around in my house. And so, I mean, I can load up DeepSeek. I've loaded up DeepSeek locally, and it's painful. It's so slow.
Yeah, you gotta now you got all the GPU power, but now how's that?
I've got slow GPU power.
How's your main panel for your power?
I have solar. I'm in California, so it's incentivized to have solar. So I've got just my roof is essentially just a solar.
It's an AI generator.
Yes. It is a token. It is a tokenizer. Boy. So like, but the thing is with the GPUs, people look on Amazon or on eBay for like cheap P20s or something like that, like nice high VRAM and NVIDIA cards that would be typically used for architects or landscape architects. People use AutoCAD a lot. And unfortunately, they've got a ton of RAM. They got like 48 gigs. It's great, but it's like DDR3. It's very slow, not very fun to work with. Like my A6000s are probably the top tier, and I set those up. I gave private access to the CyberDrain folk, and they wrote most of version 8 using it. So I would say that was a win and a loss, because I then realized that the default tools that most people use, which are like Ollama or LM Studio, are single-threaded. You can only run, or not single-threaded, but you can only run one query at a time, and then the rest of them queue up in a pile. So to answer your question, that entirely answers it. Where for home use, for me use, it's great. If I had kids, partner, if I had an ALEXA hooked up to it, or Home Assistant, or anything, I'd start running into all of these queuing issues, which I did. And then I had to switch over to Linux and start using all command line tools. And then I got into private discords with the OpenAI team, where now I'm using the tools that they're using to host my servers. I'm using like VLLM and SGLang, and everything's all command line. It's very, very scary. But I can now self-hosting. I can run 500 simultaneous queries at 2 million tokens per second. Once I broke through that barrier and realized, that you just got to use the big boy toys once you move up.
So it sounds like you're a tinkerer and you like a lot of figuring it out.
I am. And I mean, so that kind of starts, that goes way back.
Yeah, I'm curious what was like the first thing that made you want to tinker? Like, what was the first cool thing you did in tech?
Well, so I kind of started out like I mean, going way back, elementary school. I grew up in a kind of rough city, rough neighborhood. I mean, the term that was used was the projects, which at the time I had no idea what the projects were. It's definitely not like the projects in an actual ghetto, but in an actual bad place. But I lived in a very low income part of the town. There was a lot of crime, a lot of scary stuff. So I didn't go outside much as a kid. I kind of relegated myself to forums, IRCs, the internet as a whole. And so back in 2004, I was in elementary school, and I discovered that there was a community that ported Linux over to the iPod Nano. And so I joined that community, got really far into that. That was super fun. That and Rockbox, and running Game Boy emulators to take backups of my actual Game Boy cartridges and play them on my iPod. Would never condone piracy. Definitely export my games. Oh yeah, definitely. The more I say it, the more believable it sounds too. So So I'd gotten into that, and I had also kind of at school gotten the persona, the like everyone knew that I was the tech guy. People would come to me for weird tech issues. And in elementary school, weird tech issues were very odd and usually ended up coming from teachers, or like the computer lab teacher would come to me for server assistance, which is great, which meant that
elementary school,
I ended up getting remote access to the servers at my elementary school. And suddenly the iPod Linux project had a really reliable build machine. So kind of from there, I started learning about the dark side of the internet. I just was playing games, was playing online video games, and there was cheaters, and so the best way to beat them was to learn how to do exe debugging and do rats through the game through multiplayer. And, I started making some fun cheats and killing people's computers because they were killing me, and it was unfun. You just one up them, a little bit of a spicy trait. So yeah, and then like outside of that, my clique was very much like the emo kids, the goth kids, which the piercings on my face obviously kind of speak to the fact that it was definitely a phase, but I still haven't grown out of it. So I mean that was kind of the younger life, but that's really what kickstarted my whole interest in tech was doing that. I mean, from there though, like I had a traditional school experience minus the traditional parts.
That's just like that's such an early age to be able to do some of that stuff. I'm curious, how did anybody that you were interacting with realize that you were young, or was this back when everyone assumes that everyone's 35-year-old male living in the park?
This is all when we were 17 female California in chat rooms, but I didn't really have people that noticed me really until like 2 or 3 years ago. I was very visible in the space, and in most places I was more of a lurker than a contributor.
Okay.
And I mean, it started off early and started off kind of strong with that. Also used to, along with that, totally breaking the rules here, but fortunately I was wearing pants there. My parents split when I was super young, so I had a very interesting experience with that as well, but that kind of led to that whole tech thing. My mom was very against it. My dad was very much for it, but I had a one week per parent, and so when I was at my mom's, I was like, I was outside skateboarding and then finding a place to hide and pulling out the devices and starting to crack away at them. My dad's house, it was very much like he was off dating and I was just doing my own thing until I was like 13, 14, and he dated this girl who was the top female shooter in America. And so I became a world record holding speed shooter.
Damn. Okay.
Well, no, it kind of sucked because I lost so much progress on text. No, it was cool. But yeah, like the whole time it was like I'd be shooting matches, like I'd be winning world championships. I'd be like, can I go home? Like I really want to go chat with friends on IRC.
That is like the what am I thinking of here? Like, that's like a sci-fi movie right there, right? Not only can he hack you, but he'll hack you to pieces.
It's like the weird millennial experience because, right, like
Yeah, it
you've got
really
like
is.
the generation, before and after us, they're both not as tech savvy because a lot of the tech that the younger generation has is all iPads and it's all, it's all there for
It
you.
already just works.
It already just works. You just hit a single button and you got there. Whereas like we had the days of having to troubleshoot and install Shield Wizard to figure out why the heck we're getting error 1603.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that too is that we learned it as it was improving and it was getting to the place, right? So it was like, oh, it's not just that we're struggling because things suck. We're struggling to learn things because we're kids. It's because the system we're using is also essentially a child and it hasn't yet grown up. And like today, the moment you buy a computer, it's like, yeah, it's a fully functioning adult, just does whatever it needs to do.
It does exactly what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Gosh, I got a new computer yesterday, and the new computer experience I haven't had in has to be 10 plus years. I haven't reinstalled Windows on this machine since Windows 7. But yeah, like the new experience, I was like, oh god, I got to be online, got to sign up for Microsoft again, got to get my free trial of Windows Live Messenger.
Yeah. Speaking of Windows 7, there was a post on Reddit yesterday. Someone customized their entire Windows 10 UI to be Windows 7. Like they replaced all the icons, they added Arrow, they made it look like it was running Windows 7. I was like, oh,
I've got my Windows 11 is erased to heck and back. I mean, I use Windhawk to make all of the UI work good, and then I use Flow Launcher, which is kind of similar to the Spotlight tool that OS X has, where you can do Alt and Enter, and it just pops up a magical prompt on your screen where you can do anything from open a program to like run things in command prompts to like opening up.
You can do that directly from the magic box?
Yeah, so I can like RTFM. It's called like RTFM Flux or something.
That is different than the magic box that's in Power Toys.
Yes. It's this one has a bunch of extensions and it's much better. But yeah, I can do all sorts of stuff with it. It's nifty. And then I have my Windows start menu replaced with one that's actually functional. And I have it put on the right side because I got this 49-inch monitor that I don't need bogged down with a taskbar. So
back in the day, I think this was like 2000. I want to say like 2006, 2005 or something, maybe 8, whatever year it was. We didn't have wide screens. We had small screens, and even like, and like a 28-inch or 30-inch monitor back then, 1080p. That's just like too big for a desktop because it was
crazy. That's crazy. You got to use 720.
Yeah.
CRT.
Yeah, the density, the resolution is just not there, right? The pixel density. So what I ended up doing is I got 3 23-inch monitors and I set them up in a row, right? And that was when I think it was back, AMD had something. I forget what they called it.
Ifinity.
Was it Ifinity? Yeah, okay. Where you could essentially make it one large screen.
Yeah. My boss did that at the time with, it was either 6 or 9 monitors for his office setup. It was absurd.
I used to do that with awesome. 6. At a previous job of mine, I did it with 6 monitors. We were actually selling 4. So NVIDIA has a version of that. I forget what it's called, but it's like Parallax or something like that. And we were doing full 180-degree flight simulators with 49-inch TVs, something like that, 50-something-inch TVs. But it was
the R factor on that is not good.
6 4K displays all around you running on a Linux box with 2 graphics cards. I think they were GTX 1080s at the time, back before the R days. Back before we had ray tracing. But we were doing flight simulators that were
I got that copy behind me somewhere. Flight Sim 2004 anniversary edition.
We were doing not Microsoft Flight Sim, but we were doing X-Plane 9. We were we were advanced aerial training device certified, so you could get your pilot's license entirely off of one of our simulators.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they ran mid 6 figures, and our client base was very reflective of that fact. Really interesting client base because it would be a lot of people who would get done working their big CEO job at a fancy corporation that makes gaming headphones for example. And then, they'd get home at night and they need to get their flight hours up to keep their license. So they'd pop in their flight sim and fly around for a bit and then run into an issue where a certain landing at an airport didn't work correctly. They would report it to me, and then I would sit there all day the next day attempting that landing and attempting to hit that crash. And so I crashed planes for about a year and a half straight and had enough hours to get my pilot's license. It was fantastic. One of the most interesting jobs, I think, that nobody should be able to benefit from. I'm sure
I take it then you didn't actually get your pilot's license.
No, not. I mean, during my interview, they had me flying in one of their smaller single screen sims or dual screen sims when I had my proper interview with them, and it was really bad because like we were talking, and it was I had a dry spell from work for about 6 months. I had some problems come up after I was working at Autodesk, and I just had to kind of have a restart. And so I go there, I'm having this interview, first time in an office in months, and we start getting to the juicy questions, and I start just freaking nose diving that plane down, and he's like, I can see that he is visibly sweating because my boss like was a plane owner. He flew like a Cessna 152 or something like that. Serious? Which one of those has a 152? But he was, he owns and flies a plane regularly, so he was watching me just go from 30,000 feet down to the ground and landing on the airstrip while he was asking me, give me a time where you messed up and how you handled that type questions. I'm like, oh man, I never know what to answer for these because like I'm the best.
You just said this right here where I'm crashing the plane.
Well, no, I landed perfectly, but he was like, my God, my ears hurt just watching that. And when planes descend or when they ascend, like your ears pop, and they have a certain rate that they can ascend or descend, basically, like as a rule.
Efficiently.
Because if you ascend or descend faster than that, like the passengers are gonna just be extremely nauseous, and they're gonna have insane ear pressure, probably blowing out eardrums because you have changed the pressure too aggressively, which is something I didn't know before I worked there. It's a fun fact. Fun
It's
fact.
always amazed me when like a fighter pilot can do a quick climb or whatever they call it, a vertical climb.
Well, I mean, they have like extreme pressurization in their suits.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
the
amount of tech that goes into that, right? To make it possible.
It's got to feel, I mean, just the launch of like an F-15 or what have you, just like, because they take off from my airport as well. And like they get going, and then it's just like,
Yep. It's the
like,
hockey stick takeoff.
I drive a Tesla. I know that 0 to 60 feeling, but like not the 0 to 300 feeling. That's got to be a whole different level.
Yeah.
So kind of jumping back to how I got to here. So I actually ended up doing MSP stuff in high school. My dad's girlfriend at the time, now his wife, had a tax company a few cities north of us, and she had a dude who was a lifestyle MSP that was taking care of her. And so she kind of threw me under his wing. I was like 16. I was doing some AP deployments at hotels, putting together desktops because he was a person who he would buy like desktops off of Newegg, like not assembled. Buy a case, buy a processor, buy a motherboard, but much before the days of going to PAX or Ingram and just getting a device that's already done for you. And so I was doing a lot of that for a while, and I kind of rode that one out until I was like 18, 19. Then I worked in a call center, and then I moved. Everyone there that I worked with that stuck around about 2 weeks after I left ended up getting moved to corporate up in San Jose. And I kind of bummed for missing out on that one, but you can't think about those things. Because now those people are all getting laid off after 20 years of working for that company.
Wow. I'm curious though, with a call center, we often hear that call centers are a great first step into the door. Like you get your A+, you get your foot in the door at a call center, you learn a couple things, you start learning how to talk to humans, and then you can become a sysadmin. I'm curious if you felt that way.
I agree, and I've watched that path happen with probably 10 of the people that were on my desk out of the 80 or so. I don't know how many exactly. It's just a number kind of pulled out of space. There were quite a few who slacked, who did the bare minimum, like at any job, especially with that many people, and it being a call center. It's extremely easy to just get by with just doing password resets and not wanting to move up to understanding the systems. But at the time, I definitely came in there, from earlier discussion, I came in there with definitely a lot of experience, a lot more experience than most people there had. And really the experience that I was missing was the intrapersonal skills. I could code the PBX. I was working for a VoIP company. I could code the PBX by hand if I wanted to. I could have hosted on my router if I wanted to, but I sure as heck could not have taken a phone call from a dude who ran a funny video store and talked to him while he was selling a cassette of thicker than a Snicker 3 to a customer, and forgot that he had a screen share on. So it was a fun experience. I ended up building a custom dashboard though, like a custom interface for everyone to use, to kind of better assess situations, get to like call forwarding, things like that quicker. So I got a bit of a name on the call center floor. I can't say that name on camera because it's really offensive, but I definitely got a name. And then from there, I kind of started getting noticed, and they moved me over to partner support, which was an awful choice on their part, and why I left. That was because I was used to the very, very crazy speed of a call center where you're getting just call to call, and your entire day is just 4 to 10 minute calls of resetting passwords, apologizing that somebody's had a bad time with your service, and fixing their voicemails or telling them how to get to voicemails. Or if I was lucky, I would get some really cool architecture for coming up with a crazy sprawling phone tree. But it went from that to I got moved to enterprise partner support, or ETAM, and I would get one call a week, and usually that one call was like, hey, we need help setting up our Sonic wall, which to me, a person who had only ever worked with Linksys routers and Netgears and stuff, was just a nightmare. I mean, looking at it from the from the ground, you look at a Sonic Wall interface and you're like, I don't. What's an NAT translation? What are these? Why are there so many rules? Why are you denying so many things? What are you doing with your life?
Crazy how complicated it can get.
I mean,
did you just allow all policy, each one that you set up?
No, we had a really good document that I followed to a T and understood none of. And now, I worked for MSPE for 5 years. That was a SonicWall only MSP, and I understand SonicWall front to back for the most part now, and I understand everything we did, and everything we did was great. But it's like at that time, just lowly tech. We were selling, we're selling 454 RTs or something, like just some super basic and Netgear routers was what we would typically package with the phones at the company that I was at. And so like going from that to enterprise support and having to work with those, or having to try to understand what someone was talking about when they were talking to me about a Cisco switch, and that they were doing, VoIP flagging on the ports and stuff. I'm like, I still don't know that stuff. So don't go there.
This is secretly a quiz. We're gonna quiz you on all the network terms that you're supposed to know.
Hey, I had my Network Plus for a while. Or no, I had my Security Plus. I didn't get my Network Plus. I was too lazy for that.
You skipped Net Plus and got Security Plus?
I skipped A and Net. I just got my Sec Plus.
That's actually pretty impressive, because a lot of people struggle with the networking aspects of Security Plus.
Well, I think that's why post that MSP, that MSP was offering a 5-cent raise per cert. And I said, if I just get the top one, can I get the rest of them? And so I got my 15-cent raise. And then I moved to being a CISO at my next MSP a few months later. But yeah, so I mean, I would just sit there. Literally, I would sit under my desk because we weren't allowed to access the internet. We weren't allowed to, like, I was playing Sudokus for a bit, and then I got in trouble because that was not a condoned or cordoned site. So I got really good at Rubik's Cubing. I would just sit under my desk and Rubik's Cube all day. And then like when I get a call, I would reach up, I would answer it, and then I would jot down the notes for the call, and then keep fiddling away. And like, I mean, this is a regular one, but like I would bust out like things like this, or like an 11 by 11 cube at the, and that would take me a good like 3 hours to get done. Then I could take my lunch, and then another 3 hours. But I would just sit there on my desk and I would talk them through the UI, and like people were like everyone else on the call center floor were very freaked out. They were like, "Oh, this kid's weird," but also he just explained to somebody like how to create a new user, a new group, a new call tree. Like he was able to say it's the fourth option down, and then you go to the second one that's going to say voicemail box, and then if you switch out of that and then go back to the first one, it'll leave it on that option, and like you can then secretly press 5 to jump out of that and drop back into the IVR. And everyone's like, "Oh god, this guy's crazy."
Was there
Which
anybody else on that team, or it was just you?
there was another guy, and he was very much an enjoyer of vegetables. It's smoked, and so so I mean he was just relaxing all day. It was good for him too. But no, everyone else was all just regular support, and so for the most part, I would end up just being escalations, which translates very very easily over to the MSP space. If you've ever worked at like an MSP that's small enough to be sizable, but still sizable enough to be small, and where you've got an escalations lead, where it's just the guy that knows everything somehow. And I unfortunately fell into that role without having those interpersonal skills that I mentioned earlier, and it was not great for me nor my team. Took a long time to fix that.
If you don't mind me asking, what was your process for fixing it? Was it hard knocks? Did you, study a bunch on like how to interact differently, or what was your path there?
Doing a lot of this, honestly, not necessarily broadcast and recorded, but sitting on calls with people in Discord, or sitting on Teams calls, and then learning how to speak up without being a tool, which was a completely different like there are steps. There is sitting there in the chat being a wallflower. There's being in the chat and saying no, you're wrong, and then there's a learning how to sit in the chat and say, yeah, that's a great idea, but what about this aspect? And learning not to talk over your peers, which is something that I still struggle with, and unfortunately, with the wonderful world of work from home and latency and everything, talking over people is a commonplace. Trying to then do the mental rock paper scissors of who is currently talking is one that I'm working on. I'm working on beating that one now. But it comes in phases.
Yeah.
Like life is about growth.
I like the analogy to rock, paper, scissors because I feel that. And I think part of it's like the anxiety in me of timing things right. And I think that's a very elegant way of putting that is the rock, paper, scissors of conversational timing.
Well, or it's like the hallway dance. Like, if you think back to school, you're walking down a corridor and then there's someone else that's walking your direction, and suddenly you both step the same direction and the same direction. And then if you're me, you're a troll, and you catch their moves. You kind of stop, you wait for them to, and then you shimmy to follow them, and then you get decked in the face. Who would have thought? It's very akin to that, except you can't predict it because of the latency. You think you got 60 milliseconds like going up, you got 60 milliseconds going down. So that's 32 on both sides, 64. That's basically half a second or more than half a second that you're battling with constantly on these calls. And that's assuming you guys all have amazing internet, which the chances of that in a modern work from home world are rough.
Yeah.
A lot of people definitely aren't nerds in their off time. I find.
Who would ever need fiber internet?
Yeah, who would ever pay for 2.5 gigs by 1 gig, even though all of my house is just 1 gig?
The only possibility of me getting fiber at my house is with Lumen, so I don't think I'm going to be getting fiber at my house.
See, over here, I'm a block south of where the cutoff is, but there's AT&T fiber, and apparently it's like $60 for a gig synchronous, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I've heard it's actually really solid. Unfortunately,
Are they doing? Do you know if they're doing symmetrical over you? Because over here it'll be like a gig down and then 30 up,
synchronous, like in gig by gig.
Nashville area where I moved from, it was symmetrical, and man, I had like one outage, and it's because someone blew up an RV by the main data center in the area, which that put a damper in most ISPs plans, but
yeah.
But yeah, it was symmetrical, and that's definitely an aspect I miss because, like you said, that $60 for symmetrical gig was pretty solid.
Is that one of was that one of the cities that Google did the micro trenching in?
Yeah.
For Google Fiber?
Yeah, they did micro trenching where instead of going the proper depth, they only went 6 inches with their fiber.
AT&T does that too, at least in the Nashville area. They would
6
micro
inches?
trench the last
That's
mile.
deep. 6
So-
inches is deep. I've seen 2. I've seen surface
Yeah.
level micro trenching.
Well, so that's the thing. Like they did it in Louisville, and like if you look into the Google Fiber there, like it started 6 inches and then it went like negative, and it's really bad because like it just kind of pops out from the road, and you get your fiber just strewn out like a snake.
Down here in Florida, when it rains, if it's close enough to the surface, it just floats. But with all that said, I think Google Fiber is doing 10 gig symmetrical now. And I'm just like,
I mean, I think they fixed their problems.
Yeah.
In like newer cities, but where they had started doing the micro trenching, which I guess they're having to pay the city back like a substantial amount because of how they destroyed most of the city. Yeah, the Louisville incident was insane as far as that goes, and kind of a lot of people learned from that.
Yeah, the one I get jealous of too, I've got my boss in my last MSP moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and their electric co-op runs fiber, and you can get 40 gig at your house for a couple $100 a month.
So I had a customer.
is that like straight Ethernet? Not even regular fiber?
It's fiber, yeah, fiber to the house.
My gosh.
So I've seen in some areas, because the municipality that runs fiber is so small, they don't run your I can't remember what it's called at all, but essentially you're just getting like Metro Ethernet direct to your house.
Yeah.
No modem needed. Just I was like,
I'm not familiar about that aspect. I've also seen in the Lebanon area over there, we had a customer that got DSL over fiber, which is a really weird setup.
My dad
Interesting.
has that as a backline. He lives out in the mountains in Montana. I mean, he's got Starlink. And then I've ran unified point to multi-point throughout his entire property because he's got a wedding venue and he's got a resort type deal. But yeah, their backline is their backline is copper, and they get about 128K. It's good enough to load Facebook mobile, like the proper Facebook mobile interface that we used to have on cell phones.
Okay. Because Facebook is probably my most abusive tab in my browser. It takes up the most resources.
I got some that are worse. Good old Roost. Roost gets really angry if you leave it open for a few days. My old MSP, Ben, you reminded me a couple MSPs back. We had a customer who was an electric provider. They were a backup for a city, but when the city didn't need to fail over to them, they ran a crypto farm. So they had 32 C trains, each with a /24 on the subnet, and the entire C train was a 256 4 devices, and you could go and rent one through a website, and you would get crypto from that, and they're sitting there generating electricity, and then when the city had a power outage, your miner would go down, and they would just take that and funnel back to the city. Beautiful. It was a beautiful business prospect. Amazing business idea. They did very well. And the only issue was that they had a lot of compliances to keep up with because they were doing both crypto and city power.
Yeah.
That was my third MSP, technically my second, but I lasted there 89 days. They were a great MSP. I didn't care for working for a big MSP. They're one of the large conglomerate ones. And so the one that I had worked for had just recently gotten acquired by the parent company, and the process of switching from being just a small MSP ran with love to one that was ran with a lot of tape and rules and stuff like that was just very rough for me. I didn't make my 90-day tenure. That's when I left and left for iTech, where I really kind of got my foothold in an online presence and a physical presence. We were very much encouraged to join things like the MSP Geek Slack. At the time, we were encouraged to join MSPs R Us, encouraged to join basically everywhere, because we had known that having eyes and ears everywhere really helped, either if you were having an issue or if you were if you wanted to prepare for an outage. The first place you'll look is Reddit. First place you look is the Slacks or the Discords. You see that some major providers down, you're like, oh well, there goes my Tuesday.
Yeah,
and
and
just
that's
across America. I'm just gonna answer calls and tell them that the internet's down. The big black
yeah.
box is broken.
It's always great to hear when the MSPs do have their employees actually participate in the communities and stuff, because it's not always something you see.
Well, and my first MSP that I was at for 5 years was very much against that. There was no sharing. There was no talking to anybody else. It was very much our secret sauce was our secret sauce. And I didn't realize why until I left, and then I realized why. And it's one of those unspoken secrets that if you don't talk to anybody, you never understand how awful your life is. You talk to a therapist, and suddenly they're like, hey, actually having a knife in your arm isn't necessarily how everyone lives their lives.
Yeah. So were they just trying to keep you from like chatting during the day, or they didn't want you even if it was outside of work, or?
There was no talk outside of work, which was why the 15 or 5 cent raise for getting A plus, security plus, and net plus was a thing. I heard they since remediated that, and they do have 2 of their 27 employees on the Roost Discord, which is nice. But they're still very quiet, and because of that, they very far behind the times, which was really scary for me jumping into 2021, seeing Azure for the first time. Like very, very scary. When I talk to people who have been in that ecosphere for years, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. MSPs MSPs are weird. Excuse me. Because like you find the ones that are around for 25 years, and it's really great. They're keeping the doors open. They have happy clients, and then you look at what they're doing, and you understand they've been open for 25 years because they're not doing anything. Maybe they are, but there's so many people who aren't, which is why I love doing the consulting or the pro serves, is really helping these people who are stuck thinking that trying to be better is going to be difficult. Where you've got tools like SIP or Roost or Imibot or any of the other like big little MSP tools that really drive you forward, accelerate you at an insane pace.
Wish there was more knowledge sharing. Not just like, I mean, because the one thing that's crazy about the MSP world, like I'm in Orlando and it's a pretty dense market. And I know 5 or 6 MSPs. I know some that are in the same zip code as me, and we never run into each other. We don't even compete in the same industry practically. And so it's like, what's the harm in just talking, sharing?
Well, I mean, from what I found in my last MSP, which I really do appreciate iTech for drilling it into my head, is that we're not competing. We're sure maybe we're competing over customers. Really, there's a lot of MSPs, or at least this was my experience there. A lot of MSPs are very either focused on their vertical or focused on their maturity level. And so, if you get a client who's not at the ability to be as mature as you need, as you desire for your clients, you want the ability to sleep well at night. You want somebody who is okay with having multi-factor authentication. If you've got a customer who's a mom and pop that can't do that, then by golly, ship them over to your nearby MSP who will take anybody and do a soft handoff, and treat them like a friend, because they're fighting the same fight that we're fighting, which is keeping people's businesses running, making sure that our customers aren't the reason that somebody's business gets a ransomware email. And I mean, I think if you look at it from that mentality, like we are a bunch of friends, and communities like MSP Geek or MSPs Are Us, or you get into the specific software discords, you get into like the Ninja Discord or the Halo
Yeah.
Discord or Roost or SIP, and you've got people who are all fighting the same battle you are, and you drop a problem in there, you're like, I got this weird thing where Outlook is opening pop-ups from right to left, and someone else is like, oh yeah, I ran into that 2 months ago. It's a reg key. I let me find it in this ticket. It's right here, but I don't know how my end user found it, but apparently yours did too. Bye. I mean, I think I was at MSP GeekCon last year, where we were internally having a bug where our time zones on our devices wouldn't stick. So if we'd moved, they would switch back to Pacific, and then they would kick back over to like Eastern, and then back to Pacific, and that would break MFA. Time based is based on how many intervals of 30 seconds have passed since January 1st, 1970. plus a little bit of additional math.
But doesn't it do that in UTC?
It does, but when your device thinks that it's on PST but switches to EST for no reason, and then you end up being a few hours off, which you can have a code that'll work in 3 hours. It's great for 3 seconds. I ended up having that bug though, and I was talking to Kelvin Tehlar, and he not only had ran into that bug like 2 weeks before, but had a running like Teams chat with a Microsoft engineer, and he was able to message that guy and have him push the fix over to our tenant. It's one of those things where if we weren't in the community, if the community weren't a thing, we weren't such a tight knit yet open source knowledge community, I mean, I'm sure that it would have taken us months if we ever got it solved.
Yeah, if ever. It would just be like, it's a proper problem, deal with it, nothing you can do.
I've got a pal who accidentally locked himself out of his Microsoft tenant, and after 6 months, he finally got Microsoft to remove the conditional access policy that locked him out of there. Then you know Brian Simpson.
Yeah,
he had a long, arduous 6 months of not having access to his email after trying to set up SIP and messing up the conditional access.
I need to hit him up because I've got one of the really old developer tenants that's basically infinite E3, and I got locked out of there, and I don't have a password for it.
No. I mean, he had to call Microsoft over and over and over, to the point where I think he was messaging me saying like, I accidentally cursed on the line, and after 3 hours of waiting on hold, I talked to this person for like 3 minutes. I cursed and they hung up, which I completely understand the frustration there. That's why you just have to drink more bourbon while you're sitting on hold and start dancing to music.
Maybe I'll use 11 Labs AI and just set up automated calls to
I mean, now both the Pixels and the iPhones have the wait on hold for you settings. What a convenience. The little conveniences of AI.
100%.
I've had pretty good success with the Pixel call filtering, where it's like, answer the call for me. People have actually said, this is so-and-so calling about so-and-so, and then
I miss
instant transcription.
I miss that about my Pixel, is like, it was able to do that. Like, the problem is I had the Pixel Fold, and I hit like a grain of sand like on the screen and closed it. And then I open it back up, and the entire inside is now just a white display.
That's not how you're supposed to do it, man. I know the thing's made out of silicon, but you can't just add more silicon to it. Silica different. It's close.
All white display. And so that happened. That happened actually at GeekCon this year. And so I flew back to hang out with Brandon Martinez, who's an absolutely amazing ProServe dude. On top is amazing for their consulting, but also just for the humans that work there.
The talks that Brandon gives over at ZenTop, man, mind blowing.
You should see the talk that Brandon and I did at Flow last year. It was amazing.
Ooh. Is that recorded? Can I find that somewhere?
It is, and it was a battle of the battles, OpenAI versus closed AI. I was very much not wearing proper stage attire, and I was very much team actually OpenAI. And he was Mr. like 20-piece suit talking about how much he loved Chat Geppetto and closed AI. Sorry, they have an awful name for being a closed source product. I don't know. I don't understand why they are continuing to keep the open moniker.
Yeah,
it's a fun talk. It was mainly about compliance and being smart about the data you put in there, which is interesting. Yeah, I was being sold on some private AI solutions, and I was like, I can't. Like, it's so expensive, especially long term, and the fact that now OpenAI just got that court case that got made public, where now they have had to admit that they, like, temporary chats and deleted chats go into a entirely separate database that has an infinite retention log. They go into separate databases. They're separated from your chats. They're an entirely separate database. So your private chats can be audited individually, which is really spooky. And then,
but they're anonymous,
of course, yes. Then Theo of T3 Chat, if you're familiar with him, he's a tech YouTuber who does a lot of videos on like TypeScript and Next.js and stuff like that. He made a tool called GPT Snitch or something like that, and tested because Anthropic recently came out and said like, hey, we've got these tools, but like in between the lines, they'd said, basically if you do something that's unethical, we will report you to news outlets, we'll report you to the FDA, FBI, NSA, etc. And so he wrote some big long prompts saying that they were a biopharma company that had just released a product and they were going to market. They had a few people die during clinical trials, but they wanted to expunge that from the records and just show the good results. Ran that through the LLMs, ran that 20 times through like Grok, Gemini, GPT, ChatGPT, Mistral, etc. Like all of the common household names, so to speak, and inspected the network traffic on them to see out of 20 calls to each of them how frequently they had reported to news outlets, FBI, or both, and has a nice GitHub repo called like GPT Snitch or something like that, and it shows that like gosh, I don't remember who is like the worst, but I believe Grok was one of the ones that like 20 out of 20 reported all prompts to the media and to the government, essentially, which is really scary because like you talk to a ChatGPT type thing in LM and you kind of expect a level of one-on-one intimacy, like maybe not like true one-on-one intimacy, but you expect like a little bit of privacy. You expect you think that's what your chat's going to entail, is that it's between you and the model, and maybe the model learns off of it. But the fact that like now it is triggering emails that you're not specifying to occur, it's triggering an email to various agencies is interesting.
I was watching some tests within the past week where they were, testing, I forget what you call it. I think they call it like basically ways of bypassing protections, and Grok and Gemini were the two that you could still ask for recipes to make napalm, for example, by saying that you're doing it for research. And I think they use tricks like saying like my professors, my other students, and the university says it's okay for me to ask for it, and Grok would just spit out the recipe for napalm.
Well, I think it was Right at Boom year 2 where John Hammond did a demo of having ChatGPT write undetectable malware. And he got on stage, and it was a good talk because he got on stage and did something like he asked ChatGPT, write me a piece of malware, and of course he said, as a ethical large language model, I can't do that, which was a typical response from ChatGPT back in 2023. Like there was a lot of, as an AI model, I can't do that. Now they've definitely spruced up the response, but then he went and said, hey, I'm a researcher, I'm doing this for school, using Rust and Golang and for my master's thesis, please write me a piece of software that renames every file with a proprietary, with a specific suffix, and encrypts it using this encryption, that encryption, the other encryption, a specific key. Don't tell me what the key is. This is a challenge. I need to figure out how to unlock it. And then it wrote him this beautiful crypto locker in Rust. And then he ran on his laptop, and he had Huntress, he had Blackpoint, he had Windows Defender, he had you name it, he had it on there, and none of them caught it because it was completely undetectable. It was brand new code that no one had ever seen before. And he crypto locked his laptop on stage, and it was beautiful. I think Kelvin also did the same thing at DattoCon.
If one person can do things, John Hammond is just a masterclass in hacking skill.
He is. I mean, he's part of the reason that I have kept going into the security sphere, because it is just really nice to be able to understand what's going on and also to help people. And then at the end of the day, I mean, I can't speak for YouTube, but I'm kind of in this gig to help people.
Yeah. Isn't that the whole point of this podcast?
I mean, so yeah, a few MSPs in, and then my last MSP that I was at, iTech, they were really good. They did it, like I said, they helped us. They really promoted community and getting us to learn more and getting us to be more out there and really understand the world and help people. I believe that they were the ones who actually signed me up for like the MSP emergency line. I don't know if that's active yet, but it's essentially like 911 for MSPs to call and get.
Yeah, I forget who did it. It was Jason Slagle, I think. Robert
Slagle,
Giovi.
Andrew Morgan. I think John Hammond. Like
Yeah.
Matt Lee, I believe like the four of them
Yeah.
were kind of the brains behind that, but I don't know if that's live yet or not. I just know that was a big thing that
I
was being
think they
discussed a
said
lot.
something about it at MSP GeekCon. I think it's still in beta, or they're just coming out with it. They're figuring it out soon.
I'm on the list, but I did end up taking a break from MSP, which does not, it's not like my ProServe stuff through SIP had anything to do with that. It's kind of two different thought paths that collided at roughly the same time. But I've just been taking a break, and the fact that I still wake up at 2 a.m. and check my phone to see if a server is down means that I'm not quite out of the PTSD realm yet, but I'm definitely getting there. 10 months.
You can automate that checking with Roost.
You can, but boy, oh boy, that's one of those human in the middle things. There's a lot of tasks that even I, as a person who pretends to be an AI enthusiast, there's a lot of places where there's still room for human in the middle. I'm really excited to see what all the agentic stuff coming out in the future is. I'm not excited for that to continue being a buzzword that people are using, but you win some, you lose some. But for the time being, I think that we're still in a stage where a human in the middle is needed. Obviously, you can have some sort of system like SIP lock out users if they get phished. Like that's a no brainer. That's a 2 clicks in SIP to lock out users if they open up a phishing email or click on a phishing email. Besides something like that, I think that a lot of these decisions are still things that have to be looked at by people that know what they're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not certified to do DFIR type stuff, like forensics work, like the biggest thing to do is nothing. You like learning to do nothing until you get insurance in there or get a digital forensics incident response analyst in there is really a hard task, especially if you are security minded and you just want to get the problem fixed. Learning to say like, hey customer, you're kind of SOL. You gotta all the details are oh my gosh, Ben, help me out here.
You want to kind of protect the relevant details.
All the details are in the instructions. That the gift that we had, the gift,
the what, the breadcrumbs.
No, the gift, my gosh, I'm
all the details are in the task.
Oh my gosh, yes, all the details are in the task. That right there is a life motto that nobody wants to know. But yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I should. I have a slightly different thought that, to clarify, I think a lot of times in some of those situations, there's opportunity to, like, if you have an email compromise, change the person's password. That's not going to affect the data that's there about the attacker and what's going on. Like, you can't, you got to like contain there and then bring in insurance, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. You stop the bleeding and then you bring in the insurance.
Yeah.
But there, yeah. Well, and that's just the thing. I mean, that's something you learn with the Security Plus. That's something you learn from talking to people in the community. Is yeah, you do stop the problem. Obviously, you don't just let it spread. But there's a certain point of
absolutely,
if you move too far, you're now removing critical evidence. Which if your customer or if you're the one that got hit by it, if you have befallen that poor circumstance and you erase the evidence, you could be screwing yourself out of an insurance claim, or you could be making your insurance payout just much worse.
100%. There are, if you want to be a little bit more informed, Black Hills InfoSec has anti-sec training, and they do some, intro to security and some very basic, backdoors and breaches is wonderful for planning.
I don't know if these are upside down or not. I'm sure they're upside down, but they've got this card game, Backdoors and Breaches, which is a great like tabletop exercise for your team.
I think people should have.
None of my other friends though, like my non-techie friends, want to play the game with me. So
call it. Just scribble it out and say Cards Against Humanity, and
there
then
you go.
like have a few drinks.
I have Cards Against IT.
Get a few drinks going, and then they're like, wait a second, this isn't Cards Against Humanity. You're like, yeah, it is.
She just tricked me into learning incident response.
I don't know. I really I don't want to attribute this to the wrong person, but there was a CEO of a tech company, of a security company, who was speaking at the second Reddit boom when I went there, and he was saying that they had an incident and they had an incident response playbook, but they had not tabletopped enough, and so instead of following the playbook, he ended up trying to play Superman, and it burned them a lot. So that's one of those big things.
I think the easiest way for anyone to understand why tabletops are important is just the firehouse analogy. The same, the firefighters need to train constantly because you need to make what you're going to do second nature.
It doesn't even have to be compromised. There's still MSPs that don't test their backups.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are you going to do when something's not working?
You sick an Alden on it for a week straight. You buy him like 37 or 36 Monster Sunrises, and he rebuilds a entire SQL database filled with X-rays of people for an orthodontics center by hand. And then he never discusses it until 5 years after his NDA.
There was an Exchange server that we had to rebuild at one of the companies I worked for, and we did it from everybody's Outlook PST because the backup was...
Yeah. Learning the backup's broken when it breaks is the scariest part, because then you see just how bad it's broken, and that like even the successful ones weren't tested properly, and those ones are still broken, and then it just...
really early on at some of the IT companies I'd work for, you would buy a backup product and you just kind of assume that it did the thing that you paid it to do. And then you learn like, oh, you have to check this stuff. And then even if I check it, sometimes it's still not good. So we should actually test that.
My favorite way to test my backup products is just when I need to do maintenance. Why take down the server when I can just launch it in a VM over from the backup?
Gosh, that sounds great.
Then do my maintenance and then restore from the VM.
I would have loved that for one of my clients. I had a 911 call center as a client, and
that's a tough one.
Their maintenance windows were extremely tough. Fortunately, we had 3 hypervisors, and I was the one person at my MSP that learned that you could do live no shared storage VM migrations, which could be a CTF, honestly, at this point. That was an absolute disaster to set up, but I was able to hop things around servers and take out servers to blow them out. It had to be at 3 a.m. because everything slowed to a crawl while migrating an entire ambulance fleet management platform from one server to another.
Yeah.
Good old 3 a.m.s driving through the Thule fog here, where it can be 10 feet of visibility or 10 inches, depending on where you're standing.
Yeah,
fun stuff. But yeah, overall,
I was trying to think. Where were we? You were an MSP or 2 in, I think, in your journey, and then we may have went on a little bit of a tangent, which is...
So I started MSP, and then I went to call center, went to Autodesk, did some development on AutoCAD for a bit. I worked on the installer. I got it to not require admin privileges to install, which was fantastic. And then the next major version required admin flight sims, and then I actually got an MSP for 5 years. It was really cool. And then I got into MSP again short term, and then over at iTech, where I was the CISO and chief of escalations and L3, and basically if there was a hat that wasn't worn by a lower tech, I was wearing it. I was not a CSM. My CSM was amazing. My other L3s, L2s, and L1s were amazing people. I miss them every day, and I Snapchat or message most of them fairly frequently.
It is nice to be able to keep those relationships, though, right? It is
a wonderful thing. And I mean, I take a lot of pride in being able to tell them about outages, because like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of people who don't take work home with them. Obviously, we're in this call, we're all not quite in our cubicles, but there's a lot of people who do actually have that work-life separation that so many people talk about, the fabled work-life separation. But I really do enjoy being able to like update people on new features, on tools or issues that happen at my old MSPs, because they're not frequently on the Discords, the Reddits. They're not frequently on Reddit and such, and they don't see stuff on the MSP Reddit where you could see that like, hey, there's a critical Windows update, don't install it because it breaks printers for everybody.
Yeah. I thought I was the only weirdo who did that, so I don't feel alone. Like, hey, old MSP coworkers, you should probably look at this.
You should look at you should not update QuickBooks. You should not pass go. Don't update Windows. Cancel that Windows update. Please block it. Use this tool that I built that you guys are still using, that I know you're still using because I have metrics in there. Don't, please, don't be a goofball. Don't make your life more difficult. Just listen to the weirdo who left on bad terms but meant the best. And yeah, I mean, now, like I said, now I'm just consulting. I just kind of took a break from that, and I'm, really kind of just trying to help get everyone else onto a level playing field.
Did you kind of always know that you wanted to do consulting? Did you fall into it a little bit, or what did
I
that look
think
like?
I've got a, like in third grade, we had one of those, like, what do you want to be when you grow up type deals. And I wrote on there, I want to work for Norton Antivirus and I want to make the best antivirus in the world. And so I didn't quite hit my goal, but I kind of think that, with how things have shifted over time, I'm where I wanted to be as a kid, which is really weird. It's weird to think, like, I know like most people had like aspirations to like be a NASCAR driver or an astronaut or something. And I've actually met some people who have accomplished those goals like through working the flight sim place. Everyone else that they're like went to Lockheed Martin and now work on space stuff, space things. So like, yeah. So I guess to answer your question, yes, I somehow did end up where I wanted to be, just not. And I didn't know that this existed because, quite frankly, it probably didn't exist back in 2003.
Sure.
I don't think we had MSPs. I think at that time it was more just like IT shops or the PC guys incorporated.
Yeah, no, the MSP that I worked for, I think 2006, somewhere right in there, they were first starting to look at that whole MSP thing that other people were doing. So
It's a weird market. I hear of a lot of companies that have been around. The one that I was at, my first MSP was around for 25 years, but I believe when they started, again, they were a, you know, corner city computers or something like that. Like you go in there and my computer is slow, and then they would run 1,000 different tools that just add more malware in there, but clean out your cookies and
yeah,
run CCleaner, run Avast, and remove them and call it a day. And you come back in 3 months later saying it's slow again.
yeah,
It's like, yep, needs constant maintenance.
Yeah, and I mean, now we're sitting at the era where Microsoft's web browser is actually good and their antivirus is actually good. What happened? I don't know. I think I was asleep during that time because I like left my first MSP where we were very strict third party AVs and NBRs and whatever the heck other acronyms exist, all the TLAs. And then I go to a place where it's like we're using Windows Defender because Windows Defender is good. And I'm like,
The best.
these guys are dumb. Windows Defender is awful. And then you keep playing around for a while and suddenly like you end up, my gosh, where is it? Oh gosh, you end up with the gosh darn like Microsoft Defender handbook, which my buddy Brandon like has this as his, well, my buddy Brandon has this like his tabletop piece on his coffee table, and I thought he was weird for that, and then suddenly I ran into an issue. I messaged him and he's like, oh yeah, pull out your book, like go to page 136. Lo and behold, there's the exact answer to the very weird circumstance I ran into. So but yeah, it's crazy. And also, in an MSP world, Microsoft Defender is insanely amazing because they link your identity 3 different ways via your email, your entry user, and your device. And so you can, if you've ever accidentally seen or had the unfortunate luck of watching a compromise through Windows Defender portal, it is amazing. You can see the email hit someone's inbox, you can see them download it to their computer, you can see them run the file, and you can see the file propagate to every single computer in the organization, and then you can see every user in there, email it out to people, and that it's all just a beautiful map in Microsoft Defender. It's like after doing that, like even my personal, I have my personal Microsoft tenant for testing stuff, learning, but I'm still buying a business premium license and paying for Defender P2 because Defender's honestly saving my butt. And sometimes it's very retroactive. Sometimes it's not proactive at all. It still keeps those logs and everything, which is just great for if something actually hits the fan, especially as a consultant.
100%. So I see the Defender book. So I'm curious, if I were to hand you a new topic tomorrow and, I'd say go learn Proxmox in this very like weird setup.
Oh, no, you awful human. That's one of my Proxmox is great if it's last year.
But I was just to say, like, how, like, you've learned a lot of different things and you become very proficient at them. But what would you say is your method? Like, is it just doing? Do you prefer like text resources or videos or all the above? Or
well, so I mean, I'm happy for an armchair psychiatrist to tell me I'm incorrect in the comments here, but I recently heard on a video or on a blog post, something like that, that like everybody, there is no such thing as like a visual learner versus a tactile learner. Like everybody learns by doing. There are some people who prefer to watch it be done before they try and do it, but really like everybody honestly learns best by doing. And it's like the same thing, you know, you were taught in school to take notes of the things the teachers are saying, because you're sitting there, you're writing it, and the act of writing it kind of burns it into your brain because you're focusing on that. So I'm definitely a learn by doing person.
The edge method of teaching people has always been one of my favorites.
Not familiar.
So
Tell me
edge,
about edging.
yeah, explain, demonstrate, guide, enable. So it's a process of how you transfer knowledge from yourself to another person. First, you just explain how to do the thing. It's redundant on purpose. So if you're teaching, let's say, a class, you explain the topic, you demonstrate how to do the task, then you guide the group or the person doing it. You do it together, and then you enable them to go out and do it on their own.
I like that. I've also heard it as I do, we do, you do. But I like edge because it takes that extra step in there.
I like that. I mean, that does kind of circle into the folks who prefer learning by hearing or by seeing rather than by doing. But I mean, I believe that it was like done by a legit psychiatrist or something like that like you don't actually learn until you do it. And that's why like one of the mottos for learning to code is, you know, the best way to learn how to code is to code.
I mean, I don't know anyone who can prove that they learn by just reading, because you take anybody that has done a brain dump on a certification exam and give them an actual task, and they're like, I need a reference book.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got the people who farm certificates, their resume has 30 certificates, their email is a mile long, their signature is a mile long, and they know about as much as about networking as the attendant at the nearest gas station, you know. Which is enough, you know. They've got some serious crazy networks there. I don't know if you guys have ever done like MSP work for a gas station. It's scary, especially the car wash. The car washes are nuts. Knowing how many switches are exposed to water in those, I'm surprised that those work well.
We had a bus company client, and their network rack was in the men's bathroom, which was interesting.
I have had an SVN server hidden above the drop ceiling in the bathroom before.
Bathrooms should not have drop ceilings.
Well, it was the one place I could hide a Raspberry Pi as an SVN server. I could change
That's
the
the
DNS
problem.
to point to
You
that.
can hide things.
Then when my web dev decided to push changes to prod without testing them, they would secretly go to our dev server, and then things would go down in our office, but they wouldn't go down for all of our clients, and it was fantastic. And if they didn't go down for the clients, then I just push it up the next night, and then I'd be able to roll back if we found a bug. They didn't know that. I don't think I ever actually got that Raspberry Pi back. People at that unnamed software company that's been up there for like 8 years, I believe that's still their like middleman CI/CD pipeline. Before I knew what a CI/CD was, I just redirected DNS and called it a day. It's great because we all worked off of Macs running Parallels, and so we re-imaged the Windows image daily, and so I just added in the Windows image a host file that redirected it. What a nerd I was. Boy, I'm glad I'm not a nerd.
Was?
Yeah,
Not
no,
now, just was.
The terminal on my arm is purely aesthetics.
That is for everyone that's not watching the video, that is a tattoo of the terminal cursor.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've got it's a less than sign and an underscore. It's fantastic. I've had many ransomware one-liners written on my arm. Just waiting for somebody to like write something really bad there and like OCR scan it and find a vulnerability in a phone camera app or something. But yeah,
So
yeah. Crazy.
You know, I love how vast your experience has been. You've done so many different things, all focused in on kind of just improving an environment, improving yourself, improving whatever you're doing, with a little bit of chaos thrown in every now and then. But I'm curious, what would you say has been one of the greatest takeaways that you've gotten over your years? Like based on, you know, what this is a tough question, but what's like one thing that you've learned over the last 15-20 years of your life that you're like, okay, I can package that into a small detail and put it on a stamp?
I mean, uh, a lot of things. Obviously, the big one, which you've gotten to know me here over the past time. Laughter is the best medicine. Whether it's
Absolutely.
whether it's for sadness, for life, for having a virus, for having a broken computer. If you can laugh about it, if you can laugh it off, if you can laugh a deadline away, laughter is the best medicine. I mean, the other like actual work thing though is be nice to your village. Respect your village, they'll respect you back, and that's really my actual thing. Is I want to it's rough in this generation to make a mark on the earth, so to speak. Just with everything that's going on, it's tough to make your mark on the earth. But if you can, prevent additional awful marks from happening, do it. Be nice to your neighbors and give them gifts, get gifts back. Embrace bartering, embrace being a good human.
You never know when, the saying is like, whatever you do, it'll come back and bite you. But if you do something nice, sometimes the bites are friendly too.
I promote the heck out of a few tools, for example, and one of them hired me as a consultant. The other one, flew me out to Florida so I could talk at a conference they ran because
Nice. Yep.
I'm a little bit off kilter. I think 3 days into having the product managers at the company decided that they were going to leave me alone and just let me do it. And by the 5th day I had the product, I was on their website as a customer testimonial with how I had completely revamped our entire emergency workflow. So using their system and automated texts now and automated rollovers, so we didn't have to have our service delivery manager have to switch the on-call users and everything, because that was a headache, and having to remember all that's a headache on top of a headache. And then, like, lo and behold, that company ended up liking me a lot. And
yeah, it's one of those things you never know. I mean, obviously, like we would do them anyways. The things that the people you help out along the way, and then all of a sudden they become this random connection that changes the course of your life in some way.
You don't know what you don't know.
I mean, I love, and Abby, like I gotta get you going in the communities or something, because it sounds like you're missing out on some of those where you would benefit. But
see, here's
the
the
connections,
thing. I'm in
the connections
the
that
community.
I've made in the industry are to die for.
I'm in the community. I just struggle with having access to 50 different Discord servers. And I don't know how to use Discord well enough.
There are some dirty secrets on how to do that better that we can talk about offline.
Yeah. I'm like, I need something to manage.
Yeah, there's I mean, you can prioritize things. You can put things in folders as far as like the servers you care about, and then the ones you care about after work, and then the ones you're just in to have cool gifts. I mean, we all have to have our cool emojis to use in Discord. If you can't respond with like a crying, laughing face with flaming tears coming out of it, are you even properly expressing yourself to an outage?
Well, I think if everything goes according to plan and we can edit this one properly, this episode will come out when my daughter will be a day old. So
my goodness, when
my wife is due July 13th.
Oh, wow. Okay. My
Super
goodness.
soon.
You guys have a fantastic pipeline if that's the case.
Yeah, but I mean, I love, that's the one thing that's really impactful or big to me or meaningful to me is if I'm going to have a kid, I want that kid to be happy and delighted with the world, because I know there's a lot of things out there that aren't. And so want to make sure that I'm always embodying happiness and joy in whatever I'm doing, because I personally benefit from it. I love it. And I want her to be able to benefit from that too.
I was gonna say you're a brave man. I do have another friend in the industry on the vendor side who just had a kid, and the same thing to him. I feel like anyone who has a kid right now in the current state of the world are very brave, and no disrespect, no nothing like that. But I mean, it's a scary world. And I'm trying my best, and I'd love it if more people tried their best to keep the world a place that's safe online in the connected areas where we're terminally going to be for the next unknown length of time. I mean, sure. I think that once Meta has these smart glasses down and other people start copying them, I can see a Pokemon Go resurgence of going outside, because you can still be connected while going outside again.
Or, we'll be at the point where we'll all have Neuralinks and we'll need to install Microsoft Defender on them.
Pokemon Go has a very special place in my life, but I mean, we all remember like the months following its release where
Yeah,
like
that
people
was
were
what? That
outside.
was
People, it
July
was like
2015?
16?
2017,
17?
8 years ago.
Yeah.
8 years ago,
Whoa.
pretty much to the day, Mike. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy
Uh,
how much
the-
that got people out to just out and about. Can you imagine if it came out in 2020? How different it would have been.
So I was hanging out in a lot of online communities, a lot of foreign international online communities around that time. So 2019, September 2019 is when I started having friends over in Sweden and Finland talking about COVID. And that's actually when the COVID channel on their Discord, on like the main Discord I hung out in during COVID, started in late 2019, like September. I remember it was before October that they had all shut down because of how crazy it was, and they were, they were all just like, hey, you stupid Americans, like you guys should probably like stay inside for like a week or two so we can kill this thing. And then we just never figured out how to do that. It was too difficult. The instructions weren't easy to follow. They weren't edged. And it's 2025. I got COVID 3 months ago again. Yeah, it's
Isn't it weird when you look back on that and you realize that all of the zombie and apocalypse movies aren't all that unrealistic?
well, I mean, or more recently, Don't Look Up, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it was a direct to Netflix, I believe, but that one is extremely on the nose. If you can get past how on the nose it is like the whole there's a meteor coming to destroy the Earth. Scientists have seen it, and then the corporate overlords are like, ignore it. We're gonna mine it for resources, and we'll be good. And then I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but if you've lived for the past 5 years, you can probably assume the ending. So things like that, it is crazy. I mean, fortunately, I got sucked into VR during COVID times, so I just wasted a lot of money on electronic toasters for my face. And like I was saying, I've got a bajillion hobbies, and they all just get more and more technical as they go in. And so I'm still waiting on a new VR headset coming in the mail next month.
That is one thing I am struggling to decide whether or not I want to upgrade now or later, because I have the Oculus Rift 2.
Gosh, wow, you are out of date.
It is still good though. It doesn't suck enough.
It's one of the last ones that that's good for the reason that it's good.
And I didn't have to buy it. I won it in a contest, and so I'm like,
for inside out tracking. That was Oculus Rift 2 has inside out. Like that headset has trackers that detect your surroundings, correct?
No,
you've got base stations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's one of the last ones that was like the only way to do it. I think back then when it came out, the tech to have it on head was not a thing.
Well, I mean,
it was too heavy, or like they couldn't do the power consumption.
The index exists, and I say while having almost every headset that exists. I only have 5. I have some friends who've got some weird, obscure ones with like mouth tracking and stuff. But I've got a set of the, my God, what is it? The Big Screen Beyond 2 that I just purchased. If you're not familiar, they're same form factor as like diving or like swimming glasses, like swimming goggles. They're about half the weight of an iPhone.
Did Linus Tech Tips do a video on that?
Yeah, he got an early access one of those, and they're so sweet. Like the version first release was great, but it wasn't a party gift. Like it wasn't a party thing. You couldn't take it around because when you bought it, you had to do a 3D scan of your face, and they 3D print the facial interface to your face, which is an amazing experience. You can't hand that off to someone else. They're gonna have a whole bunch of light bleed. With the new ones, they're now doing like a generic face gasket along with the customized one. and then it's lighter and stuff. And over here, I mean, where I am in California, I am in the one place, or the area of California that isn't California that you think of, is essentially the desert here. So like with it, being a high of 114, a low of 75 most days, like an index or a rift or a quest is like way too excessively hot if I'm not just like sitting there with the fan on me. And because as a side gig during COVID, I helped out with a company called Stress Level Zero. They made the games Bone Lab and Bone Works, along with some other ones, but those ones are very, very movie and very, very tactile for VR. There's a lot of reaching, and there's a lot of reaching up, putting your hand in a ceiling fan, and then getting your fingers devoured. So I removed the ceiling fan in my living room to compensate. Obviously, the best solution. And how my living room is way too warm.
I just love how crazy it's been with how fast the tech is advanced. That's one thing that I find just perplexing.
Well, I mean, it took the folks over at Oculus at the time really did, Palmer Luckey did a great job at making a headset that worked. And then he sold it to Meta, and Meta has pumped, tons of money into it at a loss because it's a great advertising platform. And then now, Apple has made a headset that is inaccessible to almost anyone. I've heard it's fantastic, and it's great because you can wear it out in public and you look like you're walking, you're a Martian or something. But yeah, the market for VR is actually awful. And like for VR developers, there are no AAA studios. There's no working for Infinity Ward or something, and just knowing that you're going to keep getting paid for producing trash.
I feel like that the only way that really becomes the true mainstream perfect VR solution is when we get to the Ready Player One state, right? Like
you've
immersive.
Got that. You've also got the point where architecture firms can like take VR headsets, and they can
like
build
HoloLens is amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
the functionality of what you can do with a HoloLens
but the resolution
enable you on the job for frontline workers, absolutely freaking amazing.
Well, and I believe Oculus or Meta had done that as a demo for the Quest, was that they were showing people like going to do a house inspection and looking at like a leaky sink, and they would do like a augmented reality overlay showing, look here, the pipes are probably right here, like that sort of thing. Cool. And so I think the enterprise adoption is really the last needed part for it to take off, because I mean, this is what the third time that VR has attempted to be a thing. Obviously, this time lasted a lot longer than like the Virtual Boy did.
Yeah.
Like I've got a Google Cardboard that I got that's Star Wars themed. I got it for free back in the day. And I showed my grandpa like the app on my phone where you get to ride a roller coaster, and his mind was blown. Man, if I could show him like the crazy stuff I see in VR chat, I think that he would actually have a heart attack. But
I still have a photo of my my coworker at the time riding the VR roller coaster in the phone.
Well, I always see like they've got the VR rigs at the hotels in Vegas and stuff. I'm like, I wish I could come in with like a green mindset and be like, this is the coolest things in sliced bread. But alas, like I've sat many a night in VR, just like sitting on a roller coaster going a million miles an hour and being like, oh, I guess I have my VR legs now. This is rough.
So I still think Beat Saber is the best thing in the world.
Well, during COVID, Beat Saber, and there's another one. There was a shooting one, but those are both like amazing sources of exercise, especially for those of us who are desk dwellers.
Yeah, and I'm one of the lucky ones that doesn't get nauseous at all when I do any VR stuff. And so I'm just like, yes, this is finally for me. Like, I can do this.
Recall, I think it was before the Oculus Quest came out, there was a guy who did running in the 90s, and he made like a custom track for it that was the width of a football field, but the length, whatever. It was like 90 meters long, and just the whole map was him like running side to side aggressively, diving to slice blocks. And like he had a pocket PC, and that was like right before the Oculus Quest came out, and then they they rebranded everything. But yeah, what a crazy time. And now like the Quest 3 is really good. I enjoy mine or what I've used of it. Lots of testing game crashes still. So it's always just crashing things in the support world.
What will crash today?
I mean, but like, if I say that, like, I play those VR games, like I got those, I got Bone Lab as a play tester and a security or a support person, 4 hours before it released. So I got it given to me. They got a build that worked at 3 a.m. On launch day. So they sent it to me, ran my ass over to the gas station. I grabbed a case of Red Bulls and a bottle of vodka. I went back home, played as much as I could until the game dropped, and then I sat there helping people who couldn't boot the game. And then also I was working my MSP and like sitting on Discord helping people troubleshoot PC issues, and then MSP stuff helping people troubleshoot PC. It was the craziest high.
The things we do for fun.
And that's why, like, my main console right now is a Super Nintendo. I'm a huge I play a ton of Super Nintendo. I've got a cart that connects to my PC, so I can do some fun stuff like injecting custom games. But it just works. It's worked for 20 years. It's worked for 35 years. It'll keep working.
That's one thing that with my Steam Deck, I have all the emulators for all the retro stuff, because it's like, how else can you just easily play that at any given time? I mean, it's gotten so much easier now too, but
I'm gonna get some hate for this one, but
absolute nostalgia.
I love my Steam Deck, but I do love my analog Super NT.
Nice.
With the cart of Mario that I have in here. Just because it does have a HDMI out.
Yeah.
But it still runs the game native. So I can go to the store and buy an overpriced copy of Final Fantasy 3 and play it. Awesome. That's kind of my story.
Thank you for coming on, Alden. It's a pleasure as always. So if people are looking for you, what are you up today? I know you got some consulting going on. What are you up today, and where can they find you?
So essentially, talk to me. If you haven't caught over the past hour and something of us shooting the breeze here, I do like to talk a little bit. I like to spread some ideas, and I like to learn ideas. Teach me something new. You can find me over at tree.lalden.xyz. There I've got links to my GitHub, LinkedIn, Discord, and various other methods of contact, along with a wonderful picture of me that's 100% AI generated, yet has been my work picture past few jobs. And for one day of the first Flow conference was everybody's picture on the app, and so just the entire page of speakers was just me. Getting more and more cursed as people had screenshot and re-uploaded the picture.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely get that in the description, and we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah, wonderful having you on. Great conversation, Alden.
Pleasure being here. Have a great evening.
See
Take
y'all.
care.